To create your perspective city, you're going to start with this file. It says Google Drawings Perspective City, and it's basically just a blank canvas with a vanishing point, this little red dot. So what you're mainly going to be using is the polyline tool. So go to the line tool next to that, go to the drop down arrow and click polyline. Okay, so polyline is a tool that allows you to create continuous lines and shapes. What we're going to start with though is we're actually going to put the shapes in that are going to be the tops of the building. So you can use squares, you can use rectangles. I'm just going to go to shapes and start putting in some squares and rectangles. You can put in some other shapes as well, like if you want a triangle building top. Your goal is to put at least 10 buildings in. So I'm going to keep going until I get 10 different sizes and shapes. They can be at an angle like this. So I'm going to pick shapes that are more angular and geometric. I'm not going to pick anything that's organic. I'm going to put one more in just to show you. And then your goal, though, is to put 10. Okay. Now from here, once I have all the building tops, I'm going to go back to Polyline. And I am going to start taking the corner points of the shapes and making sure they're going into the vanishing point in correct perspective. So start with the corner point of the shape that you're starting with that's closest to the vanishing point. I think that's easiest. Click and then drag your line all the way to the vanishing point and double click. Do the same thing for the other corner points of the shape. Click and drag, double click. So this building looks like it's done. I'm not going to do this line back here because that's going to make the building look see-through. So this building is done. I'm going to go to this one now. Click, drag, double 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 click. And I'm not going to do these back points because, yep, they're being blocked by these front points. Let's see. I can't do any on that back one. Nope, nope. All right, this one. This one I cannot do. Nope. And this one, nope. All right, this one's kind of a unique situation because I can't go like this through this building because this one's going to be in front of this building. So actually I'm going to go into the vanishing point and I'm just going to back it up as straight as possible to this building and stop. So that way it looks like it's going to the vanishing point. It's just behind this building right here. So same thing. I got to back it up to here, looks like. All right, my buildings are done. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to add some details. So if you look at my Google Drawing picture here, I've got some details like shadows. I've got color. I've got little logos and little pictures on top of the buildings, like a little pool and some trees and a soccer court. I've also got like windows going down in perspective. So I'm going to show you how I did some of those things. So if I want to make a shadow on the side of a building, basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to highlight with polyline the area that I want the shadow to be. So if I want the shadow to be just on this side, I'm going to click and drag just this area. And when I get back to the beginning, that's going to turn blue. That's how I know it's a shape that I can put a color into. I can do the same thing for this one. Trace this area, gray, and then there's some neat shadows there. So you can do this for multiple buildings. You can add shadows as one of your details. You can also add windows. So windows, I'm going to also use polyline. And I'm going to zoom in so you can see how I did this. I'm going to zoom into this building. So if you want your windows to look like they're in correct perspective, you're going to look at the line that's on the top of the building. And you're going to try and match that line as best as you can so that they're parallel. And I'm going to use polyline and click and drag. And I'm basically just going to do this all the way down the side of the building, making sure all these lines are parallel. That means they're going in the exact same direction. And you can always edit these by coming back with your select tool and double clicking on them if you didn't quite get them parallel. Oops, try that line again. And I think I need to go to my move tool and fix that one. I'm going to double click on it and just move the corner point there. Yep, try it again. Okay, that looks a little better. All right, so I've got the lines that are going left to right. I need to do some lines now that are going up and down. These are a little bit more complicated because you have to follow the lines on the sides of the building and match your lines with those lines diagonally. Um, so what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to start at the left side of the building, and I'm going to make a diagonal line that goes from the top of the building to the vanishing point, and it's parallel to this line. And I'm just going to keep doing this into the vanishing point, parallel with this line. And you'll notice that they're getting kind of diagonal. You just need to make sure they go into the vanishing point. That's how you'll know if they're in correct perspective. So that's one way you can make windows. Here's another way that you can make windows. You can, again, take polyline. And if you want to just make like singular windows, you're going to make your lines using polyline parallel to the sides of the building. So this line is parallel to the top. This line that I'm making now is going to be parallel to this side of the building. This bottom line is parallel to the top of the building, and this line is parallel to this side of the building. And actually, I'm going to, I'm going to try that again. So to make my window, I'm going to make sure the top of the window using polyline is parallel to the top of the building. The side is parallel to this side of the building. The bottom is parallel to the top of the building. And this line is going to be parallel to this side of the building. And so I actually have to, there we go. I'm going to go back and use my select tool to edit this a little bit. I didn't want it to be that wide. So I'm making sure that these two lines are parallel. These two lines are parallel. And these three lines are all parallel. So that looks pretty good. So I can make that smaller as well and make many windows that go big, medium, small, all the way down into the vanishing point. So that's one other detail I could add. Let's see, what are some other details that I could add? Oh, to make your windows look like they're dark, you could select that and change that to like a grayish color if you want the window to look like the lights are off or dark. Or you could just leave them white if you wanted them to just look like regular windows. Maybe the lights are on. And then last thing I'll show you is how I put some pictures on the tops of the rooftops. So to do this, I'm going to go to insert image, search the web, and I can search for anything. Let's search for a pool. Now the trick is you don't want a pool at the side angle. You want a pool with a top view because we're working with aerial perspective right now. So I have to try and find a pool that looks like I'm looking at the top of it. That's probably a good one. So I can insert that and I can make it smaller so it fits on one of the rooftops. You can also use your shape tools. Like for the bushes, I added these little shapes and I turned them green for like the tops, like tree tops or bushes. For logos, again, I went insert image, search the web, and I just typed in Nike logo and I inserted that. And there's a couple other logos that I inserted. I put a little hospital helicopter landing pad. Yeah, some little windows here. All right. Last thing I would do just to make sure this is all looking finished nicely, I would put a background shape in. So I would go to shapes and get a square and just drag that square around the whole picture plane and then go arrange, order, send to the back. You can make your background whatever color you want. I'm going to make it white. You can change the colors of the building tops. Like you could make them all one color. Um, and then if you wanted to, what last thing you could do is you could zoom in, just making sure all your lines are pretty precise. Like I noticed that this line, because when I put the shadow in there, it wasn't super precise. So I'm going to zoom out here. I'm actually going to take that, double click, and make sure the shadow is a little bit more precisely fitting in that area. And I think this one as well. So I'm just kind of fine tuning things now, double clicking and making sure lines line up. You can also change your line color if you want. Like if I wanted the outlines, I'm going to move the background out of the way. If I wanted the outlines of the buildings to be thicker or darker or a different color, I can go to the line color and the line weight. So the line weight will make them thicker. The line color will make them a different color if you ever wanted your lines to be a different color. All right, so that's about it. Follow along with your directions here to make sure you are meeting your goals of 10 buildings or more, correct perspective, and add some details. Happy art creating.